Thank you. So yes, this talk will be about modulation strategies to mitigate the island effect with the pyramid wavefront sensor. So a brief overview. I will first introduce you to the problem of island effect, and then we will look at the pyramid response, and as it caused us some troubles, then we will look at some mitigation strategies. So first thing, let's go back to the basic of adaptive optics, but with the peculiarity of an ELT, which is large spiders. So the spiders are very useful to maintain the secondary mirror, but they break the spatial continuity of the wavefront, meaning that so we have 6 sub-wavefronts which are sensed by which are corrected by the deformable mirror, and some light is diverted towards the pyramid, but as the pyramid is poorly sensitive to this differential piston, then it's not corrected, and it degrades severely degrades the image quality at the scientific camera with a very poor Strel ratio. All this talk is based on simulations which were made with the Compass end-to-end adaptive optics tool, which is developed at LESIA. So basically, we are in some realistic conditions, meaning that we are using the ELT primary mirror and deformable mirror as provided by ISO. We have a scientific channel at K-band, so all the Strel ratio I will mention are at this band. And for turbulence, we have 12.9 centimeter, so a seeing of 0.8 arcsecond. For the pyramid, we are working in the visible with a modulation radius of 3 lambda over D, and all these simulations were made without any model gain compensation. So to sum it up, we want to do differential piston sensing with a pyramid on an ELT in the visible. So the effects of island of this differential piston. So first, on the left side, we have an open loop. We just look at the atmospheric differential piston. And what we notice here is that it already drifts quite rapidly. So that means that the compensation need to be made at high rate. We cannot wait for 1 second to do this measurement. Then we close the loop with our pyramid, and what happens is that not only, it's not just that the pyramid is poorly sensitive to differential piston, it's that it's badly sensitive and the differential piston diverge quite rapidly. And we can see it in the Strel ratio in the scientific camera, which is divided by 5. So to understand this, so why the pyramid can actually sense the differential piston, we just have to look at the diffraction theory of the pyramid. So when the beam is split at the tip or edges of the pyramid, then it creates a pattern in the pupil plane that contains some information about this differential piston, and it has a sinusoidal relationship. Unlike all other aberration, which saturate at some point, and then so you can always go back to 0. Here it never saturates, so you just will, so if you make a correction, it will be to settle around lambda. So this is under diffraction limited conditions, but now we will look at, so we will assume that we have a perfect wavefront sensor, so we are only limited by the high orders of our deformable mirror. So this, it may look like flight wavefront, it's not, it's just high order residuals. And what we can see here is a flattened response, so this is typical from the topic of model gain compensation, as we do not use them here. We have loss sensitivity. Here I will just refer to Deo's work on this topic. But unfortunately, we are not working with a perfect wavefront sensor, so we not only have the deformable high orders residual, but we also have the closed loop residual. So what we do here is that we take a residual phase from a closed loop, that we post-process to remove the differential piston. So we apply as a background this wavefront, which is free from differential piston, and then we measure the pyramid response to increasing differential piston. And what we see here is that there is an offset, but there is also a dephasing. It means that when there is no differential piston, the pyramid measures a differential piston. So there is an entanglement between the petal modes and the other modes signal. And it's the key issue that leads the differential piston to diverge in the previous plot I showed. So the question is there a relation to find between the residual phase and the differential piston? I mean, can we characterize this cross-correlation between the differential piston and the other modes? Or is it maybe not even a matrix, but something that we are completely lost? I don't know. Then, well, yeah, I will just let this question aside, keep it open for discussions maybe. And yes, we will go move on to the mitigation strategies. So first, I wanted to ask in this talk how to optimize the pyramid to make it a robust petal sensor, but it turns out the question is more, can we make the pyramid a petal sensor? So previously, some strategies have been implemented to deal with this effect, which is the slaving method. So you slave actuators at both edges of the spiders, and you suppose the wavefront to be continuous. Or I also implemented MMSE reconstructor, which also is based on the hypothesis of a continuous wavefront. But unfortunately, the drawback of these strategies is that they only work if you have a continuous wavefront. But for many reasons, you may not have a continuous wavefront, but some, I mean, a low wind effect or maybe thermal drift of the M4 then you cannot have, maybe you will not have a continuous wavefront, but something discontinuous. So you want to measure this discontinuity, so you need a sensor to do that. So yeah, maybe we need a pyramid to do that or something else, but we need a sensor. Yeah, so I needed a metric to characterize the error made on the differential piston measurement. So first thing I did is to set aside the lambda ambiguity problem. So this differential piston is wrapped between -p and p, assuming we are using two wavelengths to deal with this problem or something smart, I don't know. And on each phase screen, we compute the standard deviation of this differential piston, and then we get a statistical average using a large number of realizations. So for instance, we can investigate the valid pixel selection. So as I said, the differential piston is sensed by the pyramid because of a diffraction effect, so meaning that the signal is outwards the pupil geometry. So for instance, here we show that for different atmospheric conditions, from 8 to 25 centimeters of R0, using a larger number of pixels, accounting for pixel below spiders, for instance, really helps to have a better correction. So now the modulation strategies. So we saw that the more time you spend on edges and closer to the tip is more preferable if you want to sense the differential piston. But it also then you will also get some non-linearity on other modes. So what you want to do is to spend sometimes on edges and at the tip of the pyramid, but you also want to spend times further from the tip of the pyramid. So we investigate two kind of clovers, so the actual clover and an hypotrochoid. They are both made possible with cosinus and sinus modulation. So it should be feasible, but you just have to run your tip tilt DM at a higher rate. So we have 4 curves here, each one for each modulation, but we here characterize 3 kinds of regimes. So a miscorrection regime for bad atmospheric conditions. Basically here you could also just put some random correction of differential piston and you will get exactly the same performance. So it means that the pyramid doesn't bring any information at this stage. Then you have a decrease of the error. And then when you actually correct for differential piston, you have a correction regime which also saturates, but yeah, on the right good side. So here what we see is that, for instance, the hypotrochoid is better than the clover modulation. But most importantly, we see that, in fact, just decreasing the modulation radius is just better than attempting for eccentric modulation. And also, there is no good win-win solution between the petal mode sensing and the other mode sensing, meaning that if you sense the differential pistons, then you will not sense, you will badly sense the higher order modes. So yeah, one pyramid cannot do the work for both. And also, whatever the modulation, you always have this plateau of uncorrected delta P. And so we tried many things. We always have this plateau at that point. And the only thing that works is to increase the wavelengths. So here at 900 nanometers, which is where we are limited with our bandwidth, the system bandwidth. Yes, we have better correction, but still not good for bad R0. So as a conclusion, what we wanted to do is a differential piston sensing with a pyramid on an ELT in the visible, but we also saw that partially corrected wavefront has a huge impact on the pyramid response, and we also need to do this at a high rate. So here I put 500 Hertz. It can be 100, but it cannot be a slow rate. So we tried to understand the reason of the differential piston mismeasurement with the pyramid, and we saw that low orders mode in the wavefront residuals perturbed this measurement, and so we may have to dig deeper in the modal gain compensation and probably the cross-correlation between the petal modes and other modes signal. We also tried to optimize the modulation, but the results are not terrific. There is no win-win solution, as I said. And if an improvement exists, then you always have this plateau for bad atmospheric conditions. And so finally, the only thing that helps is increase the wavelengths, meaning also you have better changing your R0. So, yeah, but we are still limited by the allocated wavelength range we have for our reference sensor, which is 900 nanometers. So, yes, a more reasonable solution will be to have a suitable petalometer to deal with this problem. It may be a pyramid working in a different condition as the usual pyramid for high order modes, but yeah, it will be something different. Thank you for your attention.